Gameplan for Good is the podcast that brings you stories of world shakers and champions of change. Join us as we dive into the journeys of innovative business leaders who are making a positive impact and creating a better world. Uncover their game plans for success, discover groundbreaking innovations, and be inspired to unleash your own potential. Get ready for a brighter future in business with Gameplan for Good. Hello and welcome to an amazing episode of Gameplan for Good. That is a promise we have with us today. Andrew Cooper. How are you doing, Andrew?
Yeah,
Andrew
good,
is
good.
the CEO at NextGen, and we're going to get onto NextGen a little bit later. But I want to get you hooked on this program, and it's not difficult because we're making some big claims today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, one of the claims is that with the technology that you're working on with NextGen, can possibly reduce the amount of charging time for EV vehicles, reducing it from 7 hours down to 50 minutes.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, we can talk about that technology
Awesome.
as we go through this morning.
Now, tell me how you got started in business, Andrew.
Well, I think going back originally, I'm a TV technician by trade, so I had that customer service ethos that's always been there. So always solving problems for people, and I've moved from repairing products. In fact, I remember back to my early days as a young apprentice, sitting on people's lounge room floors with the back cover off the TV, with the kids lined up on the couch there, ready and waiting, because they're hoping that I was going to get that TV fixed in time for Cartoon Corner at 4 o'clock. So, if I didn't, the look of disappointment on their faces was just phenomenal.
Right, so you like working under pressure.
Absolutely. It's learning about time pressure, time management, and expectations.
Fantastic.
But the customer service ethos had followed through all the way. So I moved from repairing products to repairing businesses and people and the challenges that they had. So moving into corporate life with Hitachi after having been an electronics technician for a number of years.
Wow.
So
Anyone who's watched Game Plan for Good understands that I'm a big believer in the fact that what we do as children, what we naturally gravitate towards as children, if we go on a different path, we end up doing a big circle and coming back to what we loved as children.
Yeah.
So there's
and as a young fellow, I was always fixing things. I was always exploring, and my uncle had an electrical auto electrical industry shop here in Adelaide. So I've always had that interest in all things electrical, but I was able to take that to a different level. So I was the guy that at 12 years of age was finding old stereos that people were throwing out and bringing them back home, much to my parents' disgust, repairing them in one way or another.
Like a cat bringing a possum home.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, look what I've got.
What has he got at the doorstep today?
Exactly
Now,
right.
just quickly, I haven't introduced our good friend Lane. Lane, who is our Game Plan for Good producer today.
You're too kind.
Feel free to say something to our massive fan base, Lane.
Shad has been pumping up this interview for a little while, and I've met finally met Andrew this morning, and I can see why. I'm certainly fascinated to hear about your life and your story.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, really keen. Thank you.
All right, so we've spoken a bit. Actually, we had a meeting the other day. I scheduled in, I think, an hour for it, and 3.5 hours and one parking ticket later. We finally finished, but we had so many amazing, exciting things to talk about, and I don't think I've said the word wow as many times as I did in that time frame. And we want to get to that next gen stuff soon, but you've also got these other great adventures and ventures you've been on that we want to touch on.
And I think that using that customer service ethos that sits there, and that helps to form your values and there was family life that did that as well. My father's a minister in the church, and so we had there was a foundational component that sat there around caring for people in the community and so forth. And that's remained with me all the way through as well. So you genuinely care about people and how you impact the community. So so I've applied those principles in caring for people throughout all of my career. And so I had many years in Papua New Guinea, for example, in a corporate role, but I was able to impact community in a way that left a legacy for good, and were able to do some pretty amazing things. You know, taking a business that was turning over 30 million and turning that into 300 million in 4 years is quite significant.
How do you do that?
It's like how do you eat an elephant? You know, one bite at a time. It's about people. You know, business is not built around any one individual. If it is, it will fail or it will not grow. So you need to build your business, build your people within that business, help them to be the best version of themselves that they can possibly be. And that's the approach that I've used. And we're able to take young Papua New Guineans and help them to be the very best version of themselves. And I'm proud to say that many of those people who were being held back traditionally with this glass ceiling that sat there, were able to remove that glass ceiling, get them into key management roles, initially into middle management, but then on into more senior roles as well. And that came through training, mentoring, and believing in them and giving them the tools to be able to move ahead.
I'd love to touch on that a little bit more, the belief.
Yes.
Did you find there were circumstances where you'd have an employee who didn't believe in their own capabilities?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you'd have to draw that out of them?
In many cases, people were being told, and unfortunately by expatriates, who were probably more interested in themselves than they were in anything else. So as long as the Papua New Guineans were kept in control, in their view, then that meant that they had a job for life, these expats. Whereas my approach on this was to say, well, no, let's help these people. You know, sooner or later, as expats, we were going to leave the country. We're going to go back home. So what are you leaving behind? Is there a generational vision that sits in place that allows the next generation of these people to be able to run the business for themselves? Well, I'm proud to say that those people are doing that now, and they have. You know, we nationalised many of these expat roles. I pulled $6 million out of our costs in our overheads there with expatriates, and it's very expensive to employ people up there. And we've nationalised a lot of these roles, and these are people now who have gone on to even bigger and better things. And I still keep contact with them and with many of them, and it's great.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, Lane, feel free to jump in with a question whenever you've got one. Lane does. Lane usually does this thing where he takes a big breath before he wants to speak.
Yeah.
So you know he's about to ask a question because he goes like this. I'm just waiting for that sound. So when I hear that,
I'll listen for that and then jump in, or if you like.
That's right. Yeah, when he gets half a breath.
Yeah.
But you've met some very ordinary people. You were telling us earlier. So tell us about the very ordinary people.
Yeah, I have met a lot of really ordinary people. Let me start by saying that I have a fundamental philosophy in life, and that is that we're all created equal in value but different in function. That means that we're here by design. It's not some accident. So we're equal in value as people. So you and I are equal in value. Our roles and our responsibilities change from one day to the next. So one day you can be the Prime Minister of the country, the next day you're out. But that doesn't change your value as a person. And I think the conversation we had off air was around the way in which we see people who are ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And, you know, there are many ordinary people that we see in the media that I have had a lot to do with over the years. You know, one that comes to mind, I'm just thinking of Julie Bishop is a classic example, you know, of a woman who is an extraordinary leader. But, you know, you stop and you talk to her and she is an ordinary person, but she's just doing some extraordinary things. I mean, she was one of the only people in the world to shirt front Putin. No other leader in the world did that. I mean, this is phenomenal. I was with her and also with Scott Morrison and others on the day of the Lint Cafe siege. And there were updates coming through. We were in bilateral talks between the two countries. And you could see the weight of what was happening starting to really weigh heavily, particularly on Julia Bishop's shoulders. And she stopped the meeting and quoted Churchill, and she said, "In the life of a country, there are defining moments, and I fear today may be ours."
Right.
And you could cut the air with a knife. The sense of leadership, statesmanship was just phenomenal. I already had a really high opinion and respect for her, but that took things to another level again. And so there are many people that I've met over the years where there are just these special moments like that and things that you don't see. So that's not in the public eye. There were no cameras in there. This was just one of those moments where you go, wow, this person is a leader.
You pinch yourself in those moments?
Yeah, I remember sitting in that particular meeting thinking, I'm a TV technician from Frankston. I was sitting on the lounge room floor repairing TVs. How did I end up here?
Yeah.
But then you think, I'm an ordinary person, and it's about where I am in my journey. And so we all have a journey in life that takes us into all sorts of places, meeting all sorts of ordinary people who are doing extraordinary things.
Yeah.
And I've been fortunate in that I've been able to do a lot of extraordinary things over the years to help enable other people. That's always coming back to that philosophy and trying to bring out the best in other people and bring out the best opportunities that will help communities and help.
Well, it's an interesting mix because it's that focus on humans, their experience, their growth, their behavior, like all of that. But then you're also dealing with technologies as well.
Yes.
And there's been some significant technologies that you've been involved in. Can you tell us a little bit about those? There's a few very significant ones.
Yeah, in more recent times. So I spent nearly 8 years in Papua New Guinea. I had 2 different tours up there. The first 5 years was running the Komatsu business in PNG, and we were dealing with the resource sector up there, supplying heavy equipment into the resource sector. I finished my contract there and came back to Australia, was asked to go back up with Cardno, and we were looking after physical and social infrastructure development. So we were doing things like roads, bridges, waterways. I had a whole team of about 170 staff and engineers, and we were also doing law and justice sector reform, HIV programs, violence against women. It's a whole range of different types of projects.
When you mention all of those things that you were doing, what was your role in that?
So I was a country manager, country director.
Yeah.
So, which means I'm an expert in nothing. But my role is being like the glue that holds it together. And I'm the guy that then had to relate back to the various governments that were involved. So the Australian government, and the government of Papua New Guinea, but also with the New Zealand government, with MFAT, we were dealing with them as well, a few others.
Excuse me. So you've been involved in transformational projects over the years. Can you tell us?
Yes, I have. And again, going back to what we were talking about before, ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and it's about timing and about position and where you're at in your journey at that point in time. So I was when I came back from PNG, I was appointed as the Director for Future Industries and Advanced Manufacturing for the South Australian Government. And my role there was to bring foreign direct investment through in those sectors, in areas of industries for the future and advanced manufacturing as well. So a couple of the key transformative projects that we were involved with was the autonomous vehicle program. So Adelaide still remains the only city in the world to have had 4 different autonomous shuttles on the road interacting with the traffic. We had a lot of collaboration across government for different departments because you've got legislative challenges that sit in the middle of all of that as well. And because the law on how you drive on the road didn't take into consideration you're going to have another vehicle that doesn't have a driver in it.
Wow.
And how do you then interact with that? What happens if there's an accident and who's at fault? there's no driver sitting in the other one. So is it the technology provider and so forth? So there's a whole minefield of things there that the South Australian government did a terrific job in working together and collaborating across the departments. So that was a great project there. And then I wrote the MOU between the South Australian government and one of the key providers out of France, with the view to bringing in manufacturing of autonomous shuttles into Adelaide at that point in time.
How important is manufacturing in Australia to you?
Oh, incredibly. When you look at economies around the world, the ones that are surviving are the ones that are making things. If you build things, you make things, and you've got something to sell, that stimulates the economy. You've got supply chains or value chains, as they are now called, that are that build not only individual businesses but multiples. You've got transport industry. You've got raw materials that you can bring in. When we get to talking a bit about next gen energy technologies, who I'm now involved with, we'll talk a bit about that value chain.
Yeah, can you explain the value chain around the other transformative?
Yeah, sure.
Projects?
So a good example of that would be there's a company called Solana Technologies that I was very closely working very closely with, and we used a triple helix approach to bringing them and embedding them inside of the University of Adelaide. So Solana Technologies manufacture chips, basically the wafers that are used inside of silicon chips. And what they have this incredible technology that can build semiconductors one atomic layer at a time. So suspending a layer of atoms in a vacuum, then bringing another layer of atoms in on top of that, and then continuing to build new crystal structures that then become new semiconductors for tomorrow. And
sorry, we are actually doing that here in Australia.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So I embedded them into the University of Adelaide, into IPAS, which is the Institute for Photonics and Advanced Sensing. So there was a significant investment that went in there from the company, and they didn't want anything from government other than just to help facilitate. And so we're able to help them to do that.
Wow.
But back to your question regarding value chains. So with that type of technology in place, that then attracts other upstream and downstream organisations that want to be a part of that. If you've got wafers being built, then you get the chip manufacturers, the high volume chip manufacturers. If you've got them alongside of the wafer builders, then you've got manufacturing of products that can come in with that. So you remember here in Melbourne, we used to have Philips and other manufacturers that would build products here. Well, it's because of the value chain that's sat here. And so we lost a lot of that because that went offshore, particularly to China. Why? Because China was able to do things cheaper, faster, and get it to market very quickly. And that was a good thing for business at the time. However, we lost something in our sovereign manufacturing capabilities.
Right.
And that showed up more than anything when it came to the COVID crisis that took place.
In what way?
Well, we had nothing that we were manufacturing ourselves. Everything's imported. And so when you start shutting down borders, you don't have the things on the shelf that you would normally have.
Right.
And so that became a major issue. I think there was a real wake-up call around our sovereign manufacturing capabilities.
So the more of that value chain you own, that we own as Australia.
Yeah. So we need to be able to look after our own backyard. We need to look after the needs of our own people and our own communities here, and you do that through manufacturing, onshoring of manufacturing, and that's what we're doing right now with next gen energy. So
while we're talking about the good old COVID times, you were also involved in a company that helped with recycling PPE equipment.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So I'd finished with government, but I was continued to do the things that I was doing. But in my own consultancy work. And so I work with a company in Sydney called Third Axis, who are a very unique technology company. They're highly innovative, a number of patents for a range of different types of products there. And they are the only company in Australia to have technical ceramic 3D printing. So the printing of ceramic materials. Now, you think about ceramics that we use every day. You go into your bathroom, you've got ceramics all around you. You think of the space shuttle that goes out, and when that comes back in, why does it not burn up? Because it's covered in ceramic tiles. Ceramics have got thermal properties that are quite unique. But to 3D print that is a very different process to traditional ceramic casting.
Right.
So this is quite innovative in that respect. So I worked with them. I was able to secure a $1 million grant from the New South Wales government through the Office of the Chief Scientist. And we worked closely with key partners of ANSTO, which is the Australian Nuclear Science and Technology Organisation. We've got one nuclear reactor in Australia, right, and it's based in Sydney. Why have we got that there? Because research and development of, when you go and have an X-ray, where do you think that the radioactive materials come from to enable that to happen? It comes from the likes of Lucas Heights reactor site there. When you have a CT scan, that's a different level of radiation, but it's coming from the same source. So we need this type of technology here.
There's so many questions I would love to ask. It would be a 3-hour podcast at least.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Because I know from our other conversations, there's all of these other things happening around the things that you're working on. But I want to leave time for next gen.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
well, just to finish off on that. So the project that we had was to recycle PPE for New South Wales Health. So we're looking at face masks and gowns and those single-use plastic items. And so the end result was that we were successful in developing a new type of extruder. Now, extruders are like the sausage machine. They have a round cylinder that's surrounded by really heavy-duty heating elements with a screw that sits in the middle and turns around, a bit like the sausage machine. You put plastic in one end, it melts and comes out in a predetermined shape at the other end. What we've been able to do is to develop a 3D printed version of the same type of product, but made from technical ceramics. So those thermal properties that I talked about before for space shuttles sit inside of a ceramic extruder. Low wattage heating elements that then mean that you're not drawing huge amounts of power. End result, we successfully converted PPE into filament for 3D printers, plastic filament for 3D printers, and we're able to 3D print tweezers, surgical tweezers that we're able to use in a medical environment. Fantastic. So that's closed loop manufacturing.
Yeah. And you were able to reduce the amount of energy consumption of these?
We were, yes. By using this technology, you're reducing energy consumption by 80%.
Fantastic.
That's phenomenal. One of the most expensive parts of manufacturing is power, cost of power.
Yeah.
So we're able to do that. So I was able to then present at the Chief Scientist's commercialisation showcase earlier this year, and to be able to demonstrate very clearly that this is something Australian technology, Australian innovation, and a world first.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Fantastic.
Well done.
Love
Lane, what's on your mind at the moment?
I joke with Shad on a regular basis that we actually don't manufacture in Australia anymore, and obviously it's quite tongue in cheek. But yeah, it is, at least it's fantastic to hear hear this sort of thing happening. So all I can say is fantastic, and I'd love obviously love to hear more about it. I know we're not going to have all the time today, but
you wait till you hear about next gen. All right, let's talk about next gen. Now those projects you've mentioned are very exciting, and next gen is also an exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. So in recent times, I have been appointed to the role of Chief Executive Officer for Next Gen Energy Technologies. And they're currently Melbourne-based organisation, but we're looking to relocate the business And what NextGen have done is actually developed, it's an Australian-based company, Australian-owned company, so there's no foreign ownership involved with this whatsoever, but they own the IP for the development of new cathode materials for the battery industry. What happens with our current extractive materials? So our lithium, our cobalt, our nickel, all get sent overseas to China. China refine, manufacture cathode materials, and they send those materials back in the form of a battery for us. So that's great, that works. It's a value chain that sits there and it works. But what if we could do that for ourselves in Australia? With those other examples that I talked about, they're core technologies that you sit right in the heart of a value chain. If you've got the core technology, the old saying, build it and they will come.
Yep.
If you build the core technology in place, or you put that in place, the upstream and the downstream then start to come. So in our case, we've got cathode materials manufacturing. It's important to note we make black powder.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We don't make batteries.
Right.
Right? We want battery manufacturers to come and we want to supply cathode materials to those battery manufacturers. But we want Australian minerals going into that. So in the upstream side of things there, you've got the mining industry. In South Australia, we've got lithium, we've got cobalt, we've got all the materials that we need to be able to put into this, but we currently ship them offshore. Guess what? Our carbon footprint goes through the roof because we've now got a ship going up and another one coming back. And the way in which we handle all of that, can be done better.
There's something special about this black powder, though.
There is something special about the black powder. So a cathode, just to help people understand, a cathode and an anode are the positive and the negative terminals that sit inside of a battery. The cathode's the red one, the positive. That's the part that does all the work. Now, if you're using NCA materials, so lithium NCA, which is nickel, cobalt, and aluminium, rather than NCM, which is magnesium, magnesium runs very hot, has a tendency to catch on fire. And that doesn't mean that every battery that's manufactured is going to catch on fire, but there's a risk. And so you need big cooling systems and so forth to manage that thermal challenge that sits there. With NCA materials, they run a lot cooler and they take about half the amount of real estate footprint. So these great big battery systems that are being put in place, if you're using NCA technology, you've got a much smaller footprint for the same amount of energy output and capacity.
Right.
So that's a real plus to start with. But there's more. There's more.
Sorry, can I just ask really quickly?
Yeah.
Why are the car manufacturers not doing that now? Like, is there a reason why they're not doing that now?
That's changing.
It is.
That is absolutely changing. In fact, one of the best known EV manufacturers has just signed a huge deal to transform their vehicles across to NCA batteries.
Right.
So I can't mention the name of them on air, but certainly that's happening now.
Fantastic.
So now, traditionally, there's only one place in the world that manufactures this magic black powder. That's China.
Right.
NextGen owns the IP. We had that developed through in China, but we paid for and own the IP.
Fantastic.
So it's an Australian company that has developed this technology that has only been developed in China. We now have that.
Yeah.
We also have Australian patents sitting on there as well. So there's a family of patents. So we own that IP.
It's amazing.
What we're wanting to do is to bring this core technology back in and then start using Australian minerals on Australian-made batteries here in Australia. So we were talking about some of the features and benefits before. If you take an electric vehicle that might take, say, 7 hours to charge overnight. With NCA batteries, or with that the NCA cathode materials inside of a battery, you're taking your charge time down to about 50 minutes.
That's amazing.
So you're saving huge amount of time. So this is at this stage of the development. Now, what we're looking to do is to actually embed research capabilities. We have NDAs in place now, and we're working on MOUs with key research institutes. I talked before about triple helix approach to development, research and development. Triple helix means you've got three parties involved: government, who are the enablers. Government funding enables research and development. It's a really critical part and an important partnership. Secondly, the research institutes, you need highly credible research institutes. With the PPE project, we used ANSTO and the University of Sydney. So very, very credible organisations there that validate the science that sits behind all of this. And then thirdly, the company, so industry. So the role of industry is to commercialise, to take this and scale up. And so a triple helix approach has always been something that I've been involved with over many, many years. It's my go-to model, and it works. It works. We get stuff done.
And so what are some of the other benefits? I mean, even myself as a videographer, and Lane uses tech all the time. He's around batteries all the time. So, recharging batteries for myself, but there's other benefits as well in terms of the longevity of batteries.
Certainly the life expectancy on NCA materials is significantly greater than that of the current technology. Now, I'm talking about 3 times the life.
Wow.
Sorry, so you're saying we're looking at charging cars from 7 hours down to roughly 50 minutes?
Yes.
And the batteries are going to last roughly 3 times longer?
Yes.
And the technology is owned by an Australian company?
Yes.
That is fantastic.
Yep. It's important to note that it's also that NCA materials are also being used in China right now. Right. So that's where it originated. The China has been historically have been real innovators in terms of minerals and where did gunpowder come from? Where do we get Guy Fawkes? The old the standard crackers and so forth that we used to have, fireworks. All of that came through innovation and research and development in China. So we now have that knowledge and technology, and our role right now, or my role, what we're doing right now is working towards building a factory here. We're aiming to have our pilot plant up and running within the next 18 months. So by the end of next year. 3
phases you were talking about?
So initially the pilot plant will have that built, and that will provide around 2,000 tonne of product per annum. So it's small.
That's a lot considering the amounts that it's used for.
That's a good point. And when you think about the size of a cathode inside of a battery, there's not a lot of powder that goes into that. So 2,000 tonnes certainly is significant, but it's small in terms of the extractives industry. And then phase 2, once we have all of this up and running, is then to double the size of the footprint of the factory and to increase our output by about 5 times. So we will scale up very quickly. Now, the beauty with all of this is that we've already spoken to battery manufacturers who are delighted with this, because that means they can come and set up here. So we will take our magic black powder and sell that into various battery manufacturers. They have their own IP, their own design, their own shapes, their own size of the cathodes and so forth that they want to use. What we want them to do is to use our black powder. So you think about your videography type batteries and so forth there, the cathode inside of that is very small. So it's not going to use a huge amount of powder. And no, you can't drain it out and put another lot of powder in. But
There
I'm
goes
sure
that
there'll be a few
idea.
that'll probably try. But there is a real science that sits in all of this. And then phase 3 is the recycling. And so technology that takes existing lithium batteries, where there was a real disposal issue, and we already have access to the technology that can recycle.
You mentioned a closed loop recycling.
Yeah. So what we want to do is take the lithium out of expired batteries and feed that back in through our processing plant. And so that is a closed loop then. So you're taking existing batteries, recycling what you can from that. So the plastic components go off to the current plastic industry for recycling there. There's copper and there's a whole range of other materials that sit inside of these batteries. But the things that we can use are the things that feed back into our cathode material.
So recycling can be a costly exercise.
Yeah.
How do you do that without the costs blowing out?
Digitization really is the key in all of that. So we'll be using very, very modern processes in all of this. So we're wanting to make sure that we've got automation in place. Right. So with the recycling plant, for example, that uses a vacuum system to dismantle the battery technology. So traditionally, that's been a really dangerous industry to try and recycle batteries. You've still got a charge left inside of that thing. Yeah. And so there is a risk, a human risk that sits in there. So de-risking is a really important component, and that's where automation can help. It's worth mentioning the process that we're using for the cathode materials is also highly automated. And so we're partnering with key industry partners at Siemens, who are world leaders in automation.
That's big.
It is big, yeah, absolutely. They're a trusted partner in the automation and digital twinning as well. Yeah. So the ability for us to change configurations and formulations using a digital twin in a virtual environment before we have any changes on the ground. So this is where virtual meets reality.
Yeah. Explain to us what that actually, because this is the bit I was hoping we would fit into our time frame. Explain to us how that actually works, how that looks. The digital twinning and the virtual reality. What would I be able to experience if I were to look at the virtual world?
Think about your video games where you're walking through different chambers and that you're immersed in the middle of that game. Yeah, it's a similar thing. So you've got people walking around and working on their jobs, and you've got process lines, and you've got machinery and equipment that you've placed in there that's operating, and you can see your materials going in, and you can see your products coming out. Wow! So it is a full virtual reality of what your
so you can go in
is.
And just kind of I like that machinery, but I want it over there. Let's just push it.
Yes,
push it over there. Literally. Wow.
But think about it in terms of people from the disability sector. What if you wanted to change a configuration of a particular line so that you could allow for somebody to have a job that maybe somebody that sits in a wheelchair and maybe they can't get their arms above their shoulders. So what assistive technologies do we need to put in place to help that person with that particular job? And you can trial all of that in a virtual environment before you have the capital outlay to actually build that part of the plant.
Right. And in terms of the capital outlay, does it calculate the expenses as you start adding different and subtracting different elements?
It helps you to build in those things. So yes, you can cost. So the beauty with Siemens is that you've got a whole suite of software that builds into that. So everything is priced accordingly. So
how exciting is your job?
It's very exciting because we're actually nation building. When you look at this, our Prime Minister made the comment probably only about a month ago. We're going to build batteries here in Australia. Now, he didn't know about our project, right? But what we're doing is we're bringing that core technology in there. He recognises the fact that we need sovereign manufacturing capabilities restored back here in Australia. And that's what we're doing. So is this exciting? Absolutely it is. And it is the way of the future. We are, and I talked before about a generational vision. This is providing jobs for the future for people. And
It's amazing.
We are really, really keen to see this up and running very, very quickly.
Well, I have some good news for you. Albo is a regular viewer of Gameplan for Good. So, but that's all really exciting. Now we have to ask a question, Lane.
We have to ask a question. I'm actually still getting over the 7 hours down to 50 minutes. I know this is...
There's one question we always have to ask. What is that one question?
What is your game plan for good?
What is my game plan for good? So it's the use of modern technology to enhance the way in which we go about our life. So people get scared of things they don't know. And they get worried that AI is going to take over the world and that we're going to have robots running everything. And yeah, well, there's components of that. There's elements of truth.
Yes.
But it's not full picture. You actually need to see things in its fullest picture. I put a post up on LinkedIn earlier today, which was showing a traditional paper making.
Right.
All right, and in a village environment and so forth there, and I called that Industry 1. We're now at Industry 4.0.
Yes.
Right, and Industry 4.0 is where virtual meets reality. And so, but it's taking all of that knowledge that we as humans have developed over many years, and then rapidly allowing us to gather that knowledge into a retrieval system that helps us to make really good decisions based on other people's experiences. So AI can be our friend.
Yep.
It can be our enemy. This is about a relationship that sits there, and AI is absolutely a fantastic tool.
Yeah.
And it's a way of accelerating so much more, and be able to gather knowledge and information. But also, there's a little thing that's built into each and every one of us. It's called our own instincts. Trust your gut.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because that's not artificial.
If there was a young person that was starting their journey in business or in their career, and they're at, let's say 19 years old, and they wanted your best advice, what would you give? What would you say to them?
I would say start with your philosophy, and understand that you don't have to be intimidated by people in various positions. Remember, we're all equal in value, but different in function. And by just taking away that intimidation that can come from very senior roles that people have, that helps you then to be far more open to having the conversations you need to have to move forward. There's no one person who's going to be giving you all of the answers. You'll have different people who will speak into your life at different times. You want to make sure that you choose those people wisely. I had one fellow in my time at Hitachi, our technical director at the time, Ken Benson was his name, and Ken brought so much wisdom into my life. He'd spent many decades in the role as technical director there, but it really made a difference to me. He helped shape who I am today, as have all my other experiences. But I think back to who are the key mentors, who are the key people that I was open to listening to, and all of that that openness came because of that underlying philosophy that sits there.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much. And Lane, thank you for being the producer for today.
Anytime. Love it.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for listening to Gameplan for Good. Have a great day. See ya.
Thank you for watching Gameplan for Good. Stay connected with us on social media to discover more game-changing stories and gain valuable business insights. All of our episodes are recorded in our Assertive Media studio in Melbourne.